when I was poor, broke, etc., and I was highly motivated, I was in college, I found out I wasn't gonna be a doctor. They told me I was too dumb because I couldn't pass organic chemistry with more than a C grade. And I remember attending this financial course. It was community driven by my church, and there was like 30 couples in it. And I'm sitting there, and on class 5, there's this guest lecturer teaching about budgeting, but there was something weird about him. There was something that he just felt free as a bird. And I was like, I started getting the hunch. I think this individual is well-to-do, but it doesn't even sound like he's been working for a long time. Like, he must be really successful. And after the class, I went up to him. There was no competition. No one else. There was no waiting line. Really? And I was looking around. I was like, what is wrong with all these people? What's up? Kris Krohn here, back with Have It All. And yes, this is the podcast that is dedicated towards literally having it all in life. No, I'm not talking about materialism and mansions. I'm talking about a life that is truly worth remembering, a life worth truly living, a life that was lived so well that it not only takes your breath away, but it inspires other people around you. There's so many people that are living so small in comparison to their privilege. And so this show is dedicated towards unlocking you in your relationships and your finances, your health, really just every aspect of life. Because, most people are living life very one-dimensionally. They're just living life based on, well, I'm good at the money thing, or I'm good at the relationship game, or I'm good at the health game. But you know what? I'm not really balanced across the board because I work on one area of my life. I don't work on multiple. And so today we are going to be having a very, very money-driven conversation. Many of you listening or watching know that I became financially free at the age of 26. And you know what? I didn't get to the top of that mountain by myself. I had mentors. I had people that inspired me. Today, I've got a special guest. I could say that every guest is special, so let me qualify that. This guest is an individual that inspired my original wealth journey. This is an individual that while I was in college, I was doing some telemarketing job for a company that was representing leads, prospects that were interested in the game of money and finance and wealth. And we would represent names like Robert Kiyosaki or Adolphe DeRusse, a lot of other names, even Donald Trump, Trump University. But there was one name in particular that was kind of the head honcho, big lead account. It was Robert G. Allen. And he had written some incredible books that today are still impacting lives, changing lives. And I remember being a lowly guy on the telemarketing sales floor, first representing and selling his products. Then I became corporate trainer for the company. I started training and inspiring people. I was doing real estate on the side. And I always thought, man, what an amazing life that man lives. And I got a chance to, from time to time, to kind of peek in and see a little bit who he was as a person. I never would have honestly imagined that maybe 15 or whatever years later, that he would be here in studio with me having a conversation. So welcome, Robert Allen. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here with you today, Kris. And when we're going to find people who are watching today or listening, and we're going to change their life with just a couple of simple ideas. Because both you and I had our dreams. We had our goals. We wanted to be financially free. I had it the same as you did. And in my college days, I graduated and then nobody would hire me. So I decided, well, I'm just going to go buy some real estate.
Make my own job or make my own way, right?
Exactly.
And ironically, that is not very different from the world we live in today. There's a lot of people that are graduating and right now, they don't have jobs. I have a brother-in-law who literally just finished a PhD in business and literally can't get a job to be a professor. No college is hiring right now. They're all still trying to spin on how do we do this post-college, post-pandemic thing.
Yeah, really.
And the world is rapidly changing for so many people where they have to find their own way out of necessity, just like you did.
Well, most people who are graduating like we did, we didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah. And
so I had $1,000 that my dad had given me for a graduation present. I thought, what more do I need, Right. So I bought my first piece of real estate with that $1,000. And as they say, the rest is history. I became a millionaire within a few short years later. And what we're trying to inspire you, our listeners, our watchers today is no matter where you are, even if you are graduating and don't have any money, you can become financially successful starting right exactly where you are if you're working on the right mindset. You have to have the right mindset about it. And My mindset was I wanted to be a millionaire, frankly.
Well, and you got to say, Bob, you've already said something right now that's challenging mindsets. You said, well, I took $1,000, a gift from my dad, and then a few years later, I turned that into $1 million. And some people are watching this like, no way, bull crap. There's no truth to that. But I got to tell you, when you wrote this book, nothing down, it was updated for the 2000s.
Right.
This was, people ask me like, Kris, what are the books that impacted you? Like, this is one of the books. Because what you did is you started with an idea that was a game changer. You introduced a notion that it didn't have to take money or credit to acquire real estate. And on that premise, every single day, I buy a home somewhere in the world in a top market with no money, no time, no credit. I'm a 50% owner, and it's because of a machine that I built that stems from a mindset, from a book that said something was possible. And I think for some people watching right now, there's a lesson that Bob has for you.
Well, everybody is skeptical about that, because the world is controlled by banks.
Yeah.
And the banks say you need to have cash, credit, cash flow, collateral, the 4 C's. And if you don't have any of those things, then you can never launch yourself into financial freedom. So I said, send me to any city, take away my wallet, give me a $100 bill, and in 72 hours, I'll buy an excellent piece of real estate using none of my own money. And the LA Times picked up on that challenge because I was running full page ads in the LA Times. And they said, we don't believe you can do that. We think that's crazy. We'll put a reporter with you. We're going to fly you to the city we choose. We're going to drop you in that city, give you a $100 bill, and we'll see how well you do, Mr. Allen.
All right, pause for a second. I just got to ask you. I've always wanted to know this. And since I've got you in the hot seat, you kind of have to answer my questions.
Oh.
So here's my question. Up until that point, when you ran that ad there in California, how many homes had you bought, like no money, no credit? How confident were you that you could?
Dozens.
So you've done this dozens of times, but when they took you up on the challenge, was there still a party that's like, oh my gosh, like 72 hours, what a short fuse.
I was freaked out, frankly. It sounded really good when I put it in the advertisement,
Did you think they were going to pick you up and challenge you?
No, I didn't.
So this was a marketing thing. This is like, I'm confident, but then they called you on it.
Yeah, but I had about a month to prepare. They called me later on that year, and the next January the 10th. So I had about a month. So I asked myself, what would I do if my life depended on it? And most people don't think that's an attitude you got to have. You're never going to risk your life, but you need to prepare as if your life was on the line. So I said, if 72 hours goes by and I don't buy a piece of real estate, I'm dead. What do I have to do?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm going to work 72 hours straight. I'm going to call every phone number. I'm going to go to a real estate office. I'm going to do whatever it takes. But the secret, and this is the real secret, is realizing that there might have been 5,000 properties available for sale in San Francisco. That's where they flew me.
Gosh,
one of the worst cities to pick.
Right on. They were pushing you hard.
Yeah, and so I realized that 1% of those houses, of those properties for sale, were owned by what I call a don't wanter. So my languaging for a person who is a highly motivated seller. So I knew that if out of 5,000, there'd be at least 50 properties that were owned by people who didn't want them.
Okay, so pause. You just revealed another strategy.
Yeah,
this got you excited, right?
Oh yeah.
But I think anyone else watching this is like, I have to go through 5,000 to find 50. You look at the ratio. It's like, what is that like 50 or 500 to 1? Or like most people are going to say that's too discouraging. That's too hard.
Well, you don't have to call 5,000. You have to call 1%, which is 50 out of 5,000. You need to call the ones that are advertising, and the little clues that you see in the advertisements. So things like moving, or will be willing to carry financing, or lost my job. Where they're telling you things about themselves, about their personal problems.
But nonetheless, this is a numbers game, and you knew that you were going to have to make a lot of phone calls to penetrate the market and find just.
And I only had $100 bill, so that means that's the money I got to use to make phone calls.
This is pre-cell phones. Did you have to pay money for the phone call?
I had to pay dimes and quarters into a phone machine.
So first thing you did, you probably had to go get some change.
I went to the fanciest hotel in San Francisco, the St. Francis Hotel.
Yeah.
It's in Union Square, and I got a whole bunch of quarters and dimes, and I stood in the the booth at the St. Francis, and I would say to people when I called, "Hi, I'm here at the St. Francis, just here for a few short days. I want to buy a property with nothing down. Is that a property? Is that a proposition you might consider?" And most of the time, I left the message on the answering machine, And I said, "Well, this is how you would reach me." So we found a hotel where it was in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco. You don't want to go there. It was the only place I could go where they didn't require a credit card. And I could pay cash for the room that night. It was $35 for the room that night. And I split it with the LA Times reporter. So we slept in the same room, two beds.
That's
and I had a phone.
Times call for desperate measures.
And I was calling on that phone. I made maybe that day, 200 phone calls.
Okay, pause for a second. This is amazing because you just dropped another nugget, which is you decided it was possible. And you had also painted yourself into a corner. And Bob, one of the things that I've learned about very successful people is that they will, just like you use the word challenge, they will challenge themselves to do really hard things that other people wouldn't. And I think that's actually part of a recipe for success.
Yes.
You put it out there on the line.
Yes.
And that's the only way you really get something big and meaningful done.
Yes, it is.
And I think there's a successful clue there for people.
Yeah, a deadline is what it's called. You know, you need, and that's why I say you have to act as if you don't make it, you're dead. That's what a deadline is, right?
I like
so,
that.
So in 72 hours, that was my deadline.
Yeah.
And even today, when I set my challenge, my goals to accomplish things, there's a deadline. There's a consequence if I fail.
Yeah.
And I tell my team around me, if I fail, I'm going to give you $100 bill. And if there's 500 people on the telephone, that means it's a $50,000 consequence.
Yeah,
see?
I totally get that.
So the bottom line is, in San Francisco, I had to find somebody, and I left lots of messages, and it was all no, never.
Which is, by the way, the path of the successful, isn't it?
It was very, very discouraging. And by that night, I was pretty...
Were you worried?
Yeah, I was worried. The reporter's over there laying in the bed next to me, taking notes and watching me sweat, But at 12 after 10 that night, I got a phone call from one of these hundreds of phone calls that I've made. And the guy said, I have a property I'd like to sell with nothing down. Would come to my office tomorrow.
By the way, this is astonishing because there's another secret success right there, which is you asked. I would say, and maybe someone else listening is thinking, Bob, you were willing to ask for the impossible. In other words, the path to success for someone with a weak mindset usually looks impossible. If you're not a runner and you meet someone that's a marathon runner and you say, "Oh, I run marathons," you know what the typical response is? "Wow, that's crazy. You're crazy. I could never do that." And all they're really doing is expressing this judgment or this self-comparison of them versus this other individual. And so I think a lot of people are listening to this thinking again, "Wow, you were bold enough to say literally, hey, if you got a property and you're willing to sell it, no money down, you're rich." I'm like, wow, that took some courage.
Well, no, it does and it doesn't. When you think about it, on the telephone, you're saying to somebody on the phone, do they know who you are? They don't know your credit rating. They don't even know what you look like, frankly. So you can make that proposition to anybody, realizing when they hang up, if they're not really interested, it's no skin off your...
But you just revealed another secret again, which is you're detached somewhat from the outcome or from managing the person's feelings or emotions. And what you're saying is it's okay to make hard asks, and it doesn't even have to be hard. It can be easy. That's a mental shift right there.
Yeah. Well, the shift is I had to.
Yeah.
There was no choice.
Yeah.
I had to call people, and I had to sift through lots and lots of gravel to find a diamond.
So what happened? 12 minutes after 10.
He says, "Do you want to buy a property with nothing down?" I looked over to my reporter and I said, "I've got one. I found one." You can see he's like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to tell my editor when I get back?"
I was like, "Dang it, we're trying to create a failure piece here."
Exactly. So yeah, he wanted to have a newspaper, because the newspapers run off negativity, the bad stuff.
Yeah.
So I was going to prove what I had said was true. Well, the next morning at 12 minutes after 10, I showed up in, I think it was Burlingame, which is a little south of San Francisco. And he had the paperwork all drawn out. I wish I had time to teach you the technique that this guy taught me.
Really?
On how to do a nothing down deal. Really? I got in with my signature. I owned this nice property he had just fixed up, and he got cash out of the deal.
How did he get cash if you didn't give him any?
He created a note. He created a note
and then he sold it.
Discounted the note
Yeah.
to one of his friends. He said, would you like to buy a 10% interest note for it?
Wait, listen, you said we don't have time, but we're actually just going to break it down real quick because this is important.
Oh, it was such an amazing technique, frankly.
Yeah, but it's so amazing that I want anyone watching and listening right now to walk away with at least one, if not more, techniques from what it is we're doing right here. So real quick, let's break this down. The property's for sale for maybe what price? Do you remember?
It was $158,500.
All right, so there's a $158,000 deal. And he said, Bob, here's the contract where you're going to be making monthly payments.
Yep.
And by the way, you were probably just going to sublet it out to somebody else.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So
exactly.
he gave you a payment schedule where you could rent it to somebody else and still make some cash flow.
Exactly.
But then he has this note that you owe him money over a period of time.
Quickly, the first mortgage was assumable because he had negotiated to make sure it was assumable. And that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Even today, it can be done, but it's really tricky. He'd made it assumable, and therefore he said, you owe me $33,000.
Yeah.
You're gonna give me a $21,000 second,
Yep.
a $6,000 third, and a $6,000 fourth. Now, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a fourth.
I didn't either. I'm learning right now.
And I'm saying, why don't I just give you a $33,000 second? It's 10% interest only, monthly payments until 3 years, and then a balloon.
Yeah.
So he said, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell the $21,000 second for $15,000 in cash.
Got it. So
well, I'm going to get the $15,000 in cash. My investor's going to get a $33,000 note with 10% interest.
Yeah.
That's $2,100 a year. He's going to make 18% on his money. Plus, when the balloon comes due, he's going to make another 40%.
So he made it a win-win for you,
win-win for
himself,
me, win-win for the investor,
and for
win
the investor that bought the note.
Everybody. Then he says the $6,000 third is for the builder who helped me fix this up.
Got it.
So it was a little extra profit for him. He says, I'll keep the $6,000 fourth for myself.
Whoa. So he was going to get paid up front. He was going to stay in the deal. He found a way to probably incentivize his builder to treat him the right way and do a good job because there was a kicker, there was an incentive for him.
Exactly.
He created a win for you who got to come in. The investor that bought the note, man, how educational.
I had never heard of that technique, and I had bought lots of real estate. And so when I looked at the paperwork, it was all filled out. He'd never met me before.
Yeah.
And he said, this is what we're going to do. It's just sign your name right here. Give me $1.
Yeah.
So I signed my name to it. And then he said, I'm thrilled. I've now turned this property that I fixed up. I got my cash back out.
Yeah.
And everybody wins. And,
wow.
So most people, when they do highly motivated sellers, they think it's desperation.
But that
they
wasn't
got
the case here.
Foreclosures and all the problems. This was not desperate.
This was a sophisticated investor
totally.
who knew what he was doing.
And he was looking for me. And when I came along, he was thrilled. So most people are afraid to try to take advantage of people. So what I'm trying to tell you about highly motivated sellers, they need you. You need to look for them. They're praying for you right now, frankly. And you need to look for them and realizing that 99% are retail real estate.
Yes.
It's realtors.
Yes.
And they're going to tell you that it can't be done.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many thousands of people have told me, I bought a property with nothing down, Robert. I mean, thousands of them.
Yeah.
So what I want you to realize is that if you go run to your realtor and say, I just was on this YouTube thing with Kris and Robert, and they said I could buy a proproperty with nothing down.
And they're going to laugh at you. They're going to say, you're crazy. Send me the link.
They're going to throw you out of the office, which in the first place I went in San Francisco was a real estate office.
And
we went through all the listings and found the ones that had the little clues in them, and I wrote an offer, and it was a little very creative. And the real estate agent said, I just don't think I even dare present this. I think you need to leave now. So we got thrown out of a real estate office in San Francisco. The very first thing I did. So I changed my tactics. And this is a secret you need to know. If something doesn't work, you need to know when to fold them and know when to hold them.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes you need to fold. And most people they think, well, I need to be committed and I'm going to go for it. And I'm never going to quit until I succeed. Sometimes you need to quit. And so when I got to the real estate office and got thrown out, I realized I'm going to change my strategies. Let's go to the phones. Let's find highly motivated sellers my own way rather than through the real estate company.
That's amazing. I always tell people that winners know when to quit, but they never give up on the outcome, the goal. They just have to switch.
Love the way you said that.
They just need to switch and change the way that they do things, change the tactic, change the strategy.
That's exactly what I did.
No, it's beautiful.
Another thing I did was there are creative realtors and there are most realtors aren't.
Yeah.
But there are groups of creative real estate agents, and in that era there were what we call exchangers, and they would meet and they would exchange real estate. Yeah. And you need to find a creative realtor.
Yeah.
And if they have never bought real estate, they're not creative. If they're just retail oriented, they're making commissions. Why would you deal with somebody who wants 6% instead of the 94%? I want the 94.
100%.
And I want somebody who owns their own investment real estate. Yeah.
There's another breakthrough right there. I love that. The 94, not the 6. Focus on the right thing.
Yeah. So the bottom line is I had to find some creative realtors, and so I did some research and found some creative realtors who were exchangers, and I called them on the phone, and I said, I'm here in San Francisco. I need to buy a property with nothing down. They said, oh, we've got a perfect example for you. Because when you exchange real estate, you're trying to get rid of somebody's problem. So they owned I think it was a motorhome park.
Yeah.
It was driving them absolutely nuts. And they couldn't manage it, and they were having all kinds of management problems, and I don't know, maybe they inherited or something. And somebody came to them and said, would you like 2 free and clear homes in Sacramento? These 2 free and clear homes instead of this crazy mobile home park.
Yes.
And they said, yeah, we take 2 free and clear houses. We can rent them out. There are equities in these 2 properties rather than, and so they said to me, I'll sell you these properties with nothing. I bought 2 houses, sight unseen, 80 miles away in Sacramento. Never saw them, never have seen them. Bought them, held them for like 8 years.
Really?
Cash flows on these things, and finally turned around and sold it because the 10% note. It was a 10% note.
Yeah.
So anyway, what we're trying to teach you is how to think creatively. See, your retail-oriented people are not creative. They only know one rule. Somebody's got to have strong credit, strong income, strong cash, strong collateral, and then we'll go in there and use all their cash and buy a property quickly.
Well, and I just got to pause and ask you, Bob, creative real estate, was that term really around when you got into this game? And I know that you're really known for this whole idea of nothing down.
There was a creative real estate magazine, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, there was a group of people who thought that kind of thinking. They've kind of faded away, frankly. They no longer exist.
Which is kind of bizarre, isn't it?
It is. Well, it's because the refinancing is different these days, and it's usually, and it's because the market's so hot. Sometimes, you have people bidding with cash to bid up a price of a property. Even during times like this, though, there are highly motivated sellers who don't understand what's going on in the marketplace. A lot of times they are out-of-state owners, and they don't know what's happened to their property in these certain cities. So that's a real good clue. You want to find a highly motivated seller, find out-of-state owners, and then call them, write them an offer.
I got students right now that 2 students that come immediately to mind that in the last 6 months have done like a half a dozen deals, no money, nothing down, and people are like, in this market? And the reality is, it doesn't matter whether the market's up or down or sideways. There's always going to be people that, and they always want something different and unique. I think a big part of what makes creative possible is finding out what do they want, what's the outcome that will serve them, and it doesn't always lead to a traditional buy or sell.
And sometimes the realtor gets in the middle.
Yeah,
this is a really important lesson. The realtor, since they're not creative, and you have a creative offer that you want to show to the seller, sometimes the realtor kills it.
Yeah.
And that's why I like for sale by owners. I prefer them, frankly, but they're hard to find.
Yep.
Frankly, there may be 5 or 10% of people in the marketplace, but remember, you only want 1%.
Yep.
Well, 1% of the people in your marketplace are highly motivated sellers. If you can get with them, it's better.
Yeah.
Because they see you're real. They see you're a win-win person.
Yeah.
There's a mindset of a nothing down investor. And the first part of it is I got to look for a highly motivated seller, and I got to solve their problem first before they solve yours. Win-win means they've got to win. Now, what I mean by they got to win, that means you got to solve their problem. Perhaps they've got some debt, and this is nothing down technique. Maybe they've got some debt that they've run up somehow.
Everyone pay attention. We're about to get School's in session and Bob's going to teach another one.
They've got a debt they're trying to solve, and therefore they end up trying to sell the house so they can get the cash to go off and pay off this debt.
Yeah.
And you say to them, if I pick up your debt, I mean, I got you off the debt, so you were not responsible for that debt. Maybe it's for a brother-in-law or for a dentist or so you borrowed money from somebody individually and you had to pay him back and you felt guilty about it. I say, well, let me assume your debt. I can assume it. Therefore, I get to buy your property by picking up your debt. You get off, the debt's off your back. It's as if I gave you cash.
Yes.
But I don't give you cash. What I did, I give you a solution to your problem. Realtors will not, they don't even get that.
They don't even know how to think that way. But even right now, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, wow, I've done that before. And it's amazing how that works because it's solving the real problem. The debt is more controversial and more of a problem than their house.
Yes.
And so they'll gladly make an exchange.
Right. So, and there are 50 nothing down techniques, and they represent what I call the 10 players in the game. And so when I come into a real estate transaction, I got my glasses on.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for flexibility in any one of the 10 players.
Wow.
So the seller, I'm asking the seller, what do you need? What are you trying to solve? How can I solve your problem? Maybe there's one of the first techniques could solve that person's problem where I get in with nothing down.
Yeah.
Then there's the renters, there's the realtors, there are the investors, there are the builders. There's just there are 10 of them, and one of those is going to be flexible enough for me to figure out a way to solve their problem so they can help me solve my problem, which is cash.
Yeah.
You want what I call the creative non-use of cash.
So someone might actually be asking this question like, okay, Bob, someone had a debt. You said that you'll assume the debt.
Right.
And then you get the property, they sign it over to you or quit claim it or whatever it is. How do you now get now what do you do to get cash out now that their problem is solved?
Well, you solve, suppose they have $20,000 equity in this property and they have a $20,000 debt. So you just say, listen, I could give you $20,000 cash. You would take the cash and go pay off the debt. Why don't I just assume the debt? Therefore, there's no cash involved.
Yeah.
The seller is what gets the debt wiped off of his name. Nobody ever tracks him down again.
But now how do
I
you
make the
get
monthly
cash?
payments. I make the monthly payments on his debt.
Yeah. Now where do you get cashed out?
I just buy it and I hold on to it.
Got it.
And I either flip it,
Okay.
or I farm it. There are 3 skills you gotta be good at.
Flip, farm, or?
No, finding, funding, farming.
Got it.
And so finding is, here's where most people make a mistake. They go, my credit sucks and I not make enough money. Wife, husband, you go get another job.
Right.
We'll save up enough money. We'll work our credit, and it takes 2 or 3 years. And what's happened to the marketplace in 2 or 3 years? I don't want you to go fix your money problem first. I want you to fix your finding problem first.
Ooh.
Find the deals first. Yeah, exactly. And most ordinary people, they do it just backwards. And the realtors want them to do it backwards because they want people with strong credit and strong
of
cash.
course. Yeah.
So they're playing the realtor game. They're playing the retail game. We don't play retail. We play wholesale.
Yes.
Right? So wholesale means I've got to find people who have problems I can solve.
Yes.
And then I've got to negotiate with them in a way that solves their problem so everybody wins.
That's beautiful. Wow. So many nuggets. I want to come back to the LA Times. I want to, in this 72 hours, you did your first deal by the next morning. Was that first of all, you met the challenge.
Yeah, I did.
Is that all that happened during the 72 hours?
Well, I said to myself, we got 2 days. I'm getting cocky now because the day before I was ready to slip my wrist. the next day I'm going, hey, we actually pulled it off. 24 hours. It took 24 hours to do that. And I said to the reporter, what makes a better story? If you win big or if you win small? And he says, if I win big, he says, I've lost now.
Yeah.
The better story is I got to lose big.
Got it.
Before, I wanted you to lose big. That would have been a better story for me.
So now the tables are turned and you're like, hey, we got 48 more hours.
Exactly. So I said, now he's on my side.
Got it. Because now the big story is how big can you win?
Let's go buy some more.
Yeah.
Can you buy more?
That's awesome.
So we were doing, there are 9 ways to find highly motivated sellers. And usually it's reaching out through advertising that's already out there. The realtors is another one. Dealing with Investors is another one. There's just nine ways to do it. And so I said, we're going to just go look for more real estate. So the next deal was back to some of these creative realtors. And so I bought those two, sight unseen. Then I bought another one. I bought 7 properties in 57 hours, and I was exhausted.
Wow.
I was completely wiped out. The reporter only reported six of them. So if you look at the LA Times article, front page financial section, boastful investor accepts Times challenge and wins. And there are pictures of all 6 properties where there were 7. Because one came
That's
on.
That's amazing, by the way. That's amazing. 72 hours, 7 deals. That's incredible.
7 deals. And I did that because I wanted to prove, first of all, the negativity, the skepticism.
Right.
You go on all media skeptical. And so you say something bold like that and they go, prove it.
Yeah.
So I proved it. Now they say, well, maybe you have a silver tongue. Maybe you are,
you're special. You got
special.
The X factor. You
ordinary people.
No, ordinary someone couldn't do that.
So I said, send me to any unemployment line. Let me select someone who's broke, out of work, and discouraged. In 2 days' time, I'll teach them the secrets of wealth. In 90 days, they'll be back on their feet with $5,000 cash in the bank. Never to set foot in an unemployment line again.
Okay, wait a second. This is crazy town now. Because if you were scared and nervous on the first deal, how did you feel on this one?
Well, actually, the $5,000 figure was the biggest I could think that a person could earn.
Okay.
Now we're talking 100,000, $1 million, frankly. In 90 days, you can do unbelievable things.
Yeah.
But back then, this is a couple decades ago, I thought, well, am I going to risk my reputation for 5,000? Okay, we'll do that.
By the way, just so we're clear, I've got your books here.
Yeah, there's the challenge.
And here's the challenge. Send me to any unemployment line. Let me select someone who is broke, out of work, discouraged. Let me teach him in 2 days' time the secrets of wealth. And in 90 days, he'll be back on his feet with $5,000 cash in the bank, never to set foot in unemployment. Like that right there is first of all, that is the longest book title that I've ever read in my entire life, Bob. But it's also brilliant and beautiful. Like this challenge thing, you got it going on. So we got to hear what happened.
I don't know, Kris. That'd be a book I'd be happy to give away to anybody who's watching.
How do they get this for free?
I don't know. That's why I'm bouncing this off of you.
We'll figure that out.
You figure out how they can get the digital version of that. I'm happy to have them read it.
That's amazing.
It's a real story of real people.
Yeah.
That story is people I selected from the unemployment lines of St. Louis.
Did they pick the city for you?
No, I picked the city.
Where'd you go?
St. Louis, Missouri. Because it's in the middle of America. It's right in the middle. And on the license plates of most of the cars, it says the Show Me State.
The Show Me State.
Don't tell me. Show me.
Okay.
So we went to we went to St. Louis, and we went to the unemployment lines and hand out flyers to 1,000 people, and 50 people show up the next day for this meeting I'm going to give.
Whoa. So this is interesting. So literally unemployment was that bad that you handed out 1,000 flyers.
Yeah.
And what did the flyer say? I'm curious.
Would you like to learn how to be financially free? Robert Allen, who's the best-selling author, would like to coach you for free. If you want to get
and you had to let them opt in so that you weren't twisting any arms. They had to choose that they were willing to show up.
I had a room set up for 200.
I
thought we would have 200 people, unemployed people.
Oh yeah.
We had 50, and I was very disappointed because I was going to give them. I gave them all my books. I said, even the ones I didn't select, and I selected 3.
Got it.
You know how I selected them?
I'm super.
This is a secret.
Because, but by the way, before you share this, I just want to share with you a little bit about me. When I was poor, broke, etc., and I was highly motivated. I was in college. I found out I wasn't going to be a doctor. They told me I was too dumb because I couldn't pass organic chemistry with more than a C grade. And I remember attending this financial course. It was community driven by my church, and there was like 30 couples in it. And I'm sitting there, and on class 5, there's this guest lecturer teaching about budgeting, but there was something weird about him. There was something that he just felt free as a bird. And I was like, I started getting the hunch. I think this individual is well-to-do, but it doesn't even sound like he's been working for a long time. Like he must be really successful. And after the class, I went up to him. There was no competition. No one else. There was no waiting line.
Really?
And I was looking around. I was like, what is wrong with all these people? And I went up and he started revealing all these great secrets. And I caught the real estate bug from him. His name was Ben. And, it's interesting that in today's world, I think, Bob, there's this, I don't know, we're like just bred to go it alone. It's this lone wolf syndrome. It's weird. And it is such a great path for broke. It's such a great path for, not surrounding yourself with peers and getting proximity to people who are doing amazing things with their life. If in some ways it was literally me reading your book and saying, oh my gosh, if there was a way for me to meet Robert Allen and actually learn from him, like I would want that. But that made me a weirdo. And I hope that everyone listening right now is saying, wait a second, Kris, are you saying that I can give myself permission to put myself front seat, front of the line, and just literally get proximity to successful people, and that might be one of the maybe fastest paths to success? And I'm saying, yes, yes, do that. Like, be a front rower in life and never be afraid to ask. And I just want to say that because I want to know, how did you select? Because you probably have people still to this day coming up to you like crazy saying, Bob, will you teach me, help me, Mr. Robert Allen, pick me. How did you actually know who to pick?
Simple. I had them fill out an application.
Okay.
And I told them what we were going to do. And I said, it was going to be 90 days and you're going to have to give me 90 days of your life.
Huge commitment.
A huge commitment. I have a deadline.
Yeah.
And within 90 days, if you haven't bought a property within 90 days,
it's going to make me look bad.
I'm dead. I look bad.
But you were giving them 48 hours of training. How did you know they were going to pull through?
Well, this is how I knew it. This is how I knew. They came to me with the application.
Yeah.
And if they looked me in the eye, I put their application on my right hand. If they wouldn't look me in the eye, put their application over on my.
I want to hear why.
Because I want somebody who's confident enough to look me and to say, pick me. I'm your guy. I'm your gal.
So if they lacked even that level of confidence,
and a lot of times they wouldn't look. And unfortunately, self-esteem is a big issue.
Yeah.
That's why, I like to work with people who have mindsets where they don't think they're worthy of wealth.
Huh.
I didn't feel I was worthy for the longest time, but it didn't stop me.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between being broke and poor. One is a frame of mind and one is a financial position.
Absolutely. So anyway, now I took those, I think there were like 8 or 10 out of 50.
Okay.
Who just looked me in the eye.
So 20%. Yeah,
exactly.
We're like, all right, I'll take you up on this.
20%, frankly. And I interviewed them that night with the ex-mayor of St. Louis.
Got it.
Mayor Pelker, no longer with us. And I interviewed them and I rejected all of them.
Intentionally?
Called them all and told them they had not been selected.
Okay, now this just got interesting because I've never heard this before.
And therefore, 3 of them called me back and said, you must have made a mistake.
Wow.
I will sit in the back of the room.
Damn.
I will be the waiter or the waitress. I just want to be there and watch.
Wow.
Nora was one of the gals. She had a part-time job as a bartender. This is what, if you really want it, this is what you do. She drove that night to the bar where she was working as a bartender, a part-time job, and quit her job.
Wow.
So she could say, honestly, I am unemployed.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
It just breaks me up, frankly. The next day, we went to her house. And said, Nora, you're in. You're done.
So you even rejected her after she quit her job?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Whoa, that had to be hard for you.
Then the next day, she said, I got to show you something. She took me to the back of her house and we climbed up on the fence of her house and climbed up on top of her roof.
Wow.
Literally on her roof.
Yeah.
She had a home that she was in foreclosure on.
Yeah.
Going to lose and lost. On the roof, you can see it. She had taken her last like $3 and bought a can of spray paint, silver spray paint, and written on the roof of her house, H. P.
Wow.
She said, you are an answer to my prayer.
Oh, wow.
And I'm saying, Nora, whatever it takes. I want to help you get wherever you want to go.
Wow.
And so there are a lot of spiritual stuff that goes on around, people don't talk spirituality all that much because they think spirituality and money doesn't make,
they're separate. They don't belong
in the same sentence. It's an oxymoron, money, spirituality.
But could anything be more further from the truth?
Totally, completely.
Yeah.
You have to be a good person. You can be a bad person and you can rip people off for a short period of time. Then it's going to come back to you.
Yep. Reputation, not just karma. People
find out. Got to be win-win or it's always lose-lose.
We have this new thing today. It's called social media.
Ooh.
And it's amazing. It's like a government that just keeps everything in check pretty good. Because, dude, it's amazing that even good people get skewered alive for something they didn't do. Media is a super dangerous game. By the way, I just got to say, as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm like, you know what? I want to go on my social media and just say, hey, if you have a home and you need help, and you want to get out of, if you're willing to move this house, no money down, then go ahead and email support@kriskrohn.com and let me help solve a problem. Right now, I think my email inbox is going to start getting a little loaded up. I better tell my team, hello. But the reality is it's not about winning. It's about creating win-wins.
That's right.
And I love what's happening here. So Nora was one of the three that you picked.
Yeah, right.
What happened?
Well, we can go into a lot of the different stories. Philip was an African-American living in the slums of St. Louis.
Got it.
And his wife was, he and his wife they were down and out.
Yeah.
Mary was married to a minister.
Got it.
And they were down and out. And so all three of them were able to buy their properties. All three of them were able. One couple made $100,000 in the next 12 months.
Whoa! But what about the 90-day mark? First of all, of the three, did any of them get $5,000?
Oh yes, Mary, and Steve, on the 90th day at closing on the 90th day,
sweating bullets.
I flew to St. Louis. I was sweating bullets. Yes, and on the 90th day, she brought in her cashier's check. $5,000.
So they got in by the skin of their teeth. $5,000. What about Nora?
Nora had a property under her belt. It was getting ready to close, and she was painting it and kicked over a can of thinner or something into the fireplace.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Are you serious?
Well, the room was destroyed.
Yeah.
And it turned her upside down, frankly. A problem. And what came from that is just, Nora, you'll figure it out. Maybe you'll miss the 90-day deadline. But there's no such thing as an unrealistic goal, just an unrealistic time frame.
Oh, wow. Oh, sorry. I just got to pause for a second because I'm trying so hard to teach people that the purpose of a goals are good.
Yeah.
But when we set a time frame to it, there's something sometimes a little bit arbitrary about it.
Yes.
Because reality is, if it's something we've never done before, then we in our hubris and our arrogance think we can understand these things.
Yeah.
Like the biggest thing that we should be learning is not whether we achieved it in that time frame. It should be teaching us how to reflect on time more accurately. And like these days, I feel like I'm winning so often, but it's only because I've failed so many times that I can associate accurate time frames now with reasonable goals. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
You ding that one. I love that one. Yeah, that was a good one, Kris. That's true. Sometimes just hanging around people like us, we're learning things from each other.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
That's why we hang with each other.
That's part of the reason why we do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, and I think that's one of the reasons they watch your podcast.
Yeah,
because they want to just hang with somebody who's been where they are and can show them, hey, you can get wherever you want to go.
Well, and I don't think that we have all underdogs that are watching this, but for me, I felt like I was down and out, maybe a little bit like Nora. I mean, I remember when I was deeply in debt, college wasn't going to solve my dreams. It wasn't going to make the life that I wanted for me. And, my own hardship was just literally trying to figure out how to not go deeper into debt.
Yeah.
And the culminating moment was when I came home from work to my wife crying because she bounced a check for the first time, was embarrassed, did not bring home food. And back then we only bought 5 days of food at a time. And she came home empty-handed and so distraught and hungry. And I just thought, man, how is it that in this abundant country, I am faced with this situation? And yet no one was going to solve it for me.
Yeah.
Charity may have stepped in, for a moment,
Yeah.
but this was going to happen again and again and again until I figured it out. And ultimately, everyone has to seize their destiny. Everyone has to choose what it is. And I think, Bob, you're doing an amazing job revealing incredible secrets today of a mindset of taking something from impossible to possible because you were willing to believe it. And I think what you did is you held space and faith for these 3 individuals that really had no right, certainly no evidence to believe first themselves. So they were leaning on you.
Yeah,
and I'd like to think that people are leaning on me while I'm leaning on others. And ultimately, we're leaning on someone else's faith. And sometimes we're not going to create a better life for ourselves unless we can surround ourselves with people that we can lean on for a moment until we collect our own evidence of possibility coming true so that we can create this better life. And I think that's part of what this podcast is motivated by. And it's why I wanted you here, because I think that you are the master of representing what most people think is just downright not possible. And I love that.
Well, the word challenge, it has my name in the middle of it. Challenge.
Oh, I like that. All right.
So if you're an entrepreneur
Yeah.
and somebody challenges you, you respond.
Yeah.
You respond positively. You say, watch me. But if you're an employee and somebody challenges you, you go, yeah, I probably can't do that. Then in our country, only 1 in 7 is an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And 6 in 7 are employee-minded. And
Yes.
if you're an employee-minded, you're security conscious and you're worried about the next paycheck and you'll make small, slow money.
Yeah.
I don't want you to make small, slow money. I want you to make big, fast money.
Yeah.
Fast, 5 years is fast for
Yeah.
me, not 50 years for retirement. And if you're an entrepreneur, somebody tells you can't do it, you respond. And
Yep.
so that's what we want. That's what we're trying to do here today. We're trying to challenge you.
Yeah.
Well, I've been challenged. You've been challenged,
Yeah.
Kris. We challenge you. We challenge you to wake up to the possibilities that are around you. They are everywhere. There's so much money. You don't have time to pick it up. Frankly.
I know. And by the way, that is so true. If I just get honest here for a moment, I've literally been trying to figure out the last few months how to cope with levels of success that are coming so fast that I'm just trying to stay grounded, breathe, and take it all in because I'm past the phase of excitement and joy and just enthusiasm for everything that's happening. It's like, oh my gosh, it's there's a way of living and there's a mindset where you can rig the system in your benefit, where you just keep winning. You just have to be willing to be, I think, humble, a good learner. You've got to constantly set your mind to being in a growth mindset.
Yep.
It starts every morning before everyone else's day.
Right.
And it's a commitment. It's a discipline of life. And so I applaud everyone who's listening and watching and taking notes and asking, how do I implement this? How do I implement this? And Bob, it's so great having you here. I want to know, how did it end up for Nora?
Nora went on to buy real estate. I've talked to her on the phone.
Did she meet the challenge in 90 days or did she miss it?
No, she didn't make the 90
So she didn't make it.
She didn't make it because
because the explosion.
Exactly. Philip, he made it. He went on to be a politician in his city for a while.
Wow.
It's just like,
wow,
it's crazy. When you give people opportunity, then they get to go to what they were born to do.
Yes.
And that's what Kris and I were trying to teach you here today. You were born to be successful. You were born to create. Born to fulfill your purpose. Your skills and your talents. And sometimes you get stuck in jobs you hate.
Yeah.
Your side hustle is probably going to be real estate. Of all the side hustles you could do, real estate is the simplest, easiest, fastest way for anybody, anywhere in the world to get started. There are other side hustles you can do, but real estate is the fastest, no doubt about it. And if you are side hustling on the side and you got a job you hate, great. Do it on the side. Buy 1, 2, 3 properties a year.
That right there was a moment for me. I so wanted that soundbite. I didn't know I was waiting for it, but the moment you said it, I'm like, yeah, I love it. Hey, I want to shift gears on you for just a moment. You've gone on to write. Look at all these amazing books. You're coined for multiple streams of income. This idea that they say today that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income.
Yeah.
Right. So, you wrote that amusing. I remember when 1 Minute Millionaire came out and you wrote that with Mark Victor Hansen. And I remember reading the left side and then the right side. And it was so inspiring. I've been inspired by these books. And you've had a chance to go out there and really impact a lot of lives because you've been New York Times bestseller many times over.
Yes.
And you've had a chance to speak all over the world and internationally to all these people. What do you feel after you're reflecting back on your life and where you're headed now? What really is your purpose?
My purpose is to teach people how to be financially.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's because it resonates with me. In other words, there are 4 areas of purpose. One is talent. What are you good at?
Okay.
Second one is passion. What are you passionate about?
Yeah.
Third one is values. What's important to you? Because if it's important to you, you'll do it. And if it's not important to you, you might say it's important. If you don't do it, it's not important. And finally, it's your destiny. What are you destined to do?
What a beautiful breakdown. I love that.
So these 4 kind of mix together into what I call this purpose, a Venn diagram where purpose is in the middle.
I like it.
And for me, I'm passionate about money. And I'm a little embarrassed about that, to tell you the truth. I'm a spiritual guy. I'm a church-going guy. And most of my church members, they don't get it.
I'm going to come back to that in just a minute because I'm going to pry. And I don't mean to be rude, but I got to pry. But I just want to make sure everyone caught that. There's so many people that ask, what's my purpose? Why am I here? What's my purpose? And I think sometimes we're waiting for God to come down and say, here's the tablets. Everything's been written down on these tablets and now you're good to go. And I'm like, I think it's more of a discovery process.
Yeah, it is.
And you just shared 4 questions in this Venn diagram notion that leaves clues. And so I just want to go through them real quick one more time. You said the first one was?
What are you good at?
Everyone right now, if you're listening, you could literally just make a list and just take,
what's your talent? What are you good at?
10 minutes and just make a list of the top 5 things you're good at.
Yeah. And what if people have told you, oh, you're so good at that.
And by the way, if you don't know, you should ask someone.
Exactly.
Ask the people you know, what do you think I'm good at? Okay. Then number 2.
These are talents that you came with.
Yeah.
I personally believe we existed in a planet before, but not a planet, but a world before we came here.
Yeah.
Getting ready to come here, knowing we were excited to come, knowing it would be hard, knowing it would be dangerous.
Okay.
And we knew, but we had gifts and talents.
There's some cosmic plan behind all this. It's not an accidental biological thing.
And we have gifts that we've been working on for a long, long time.
Okay.
And I'm good at certain things. I'm good at teaching.
Yes.
But I'm not good at doing the numbers, I'll tell you.
Okay, so that's not your...
The spreadsheets and all that stuff. So you figure out what you're good at.
Okay, so real quick, number 1.
Talent. What are you good at?
Talent. What are you good at? Write it down.
What
number
are
2.
you passionate about? What do you love to do?
Dude,
when you go to a bookstore, where do you go in the bookstore? You always seem to go to the same books, don't you? It's because this is just, and don't you have about 30 of those same books, maybe by the similar titles in your books, in your library? So what are you passionate about? Things you just love to do. I love to teach. Obviously, you can tell.
Yeah.
But I love to help people. I love to see people's lives. I've often said I'd rather fix up a human being than a piece of real estate any day.
Interesting.
Which is one of the reasons I don't do a lot of real estate any longer. I've been there, done that for me.
Yes.
But if you are just starting out, perfect for you.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to help you go get that real estate.
And by the way, I love that because real estate is more of an enabler and it creates more money with more options so that you can do more of, just like the gentleman that went on to be a politician. I always like Bob to ask people this question. I say, if you didn't have a job and didn't have to work, what would you do during the day? What would you do for free that people might be willing to pay you for? And to start reveal what is that passion, right? Because some people are like, I don't know what I'm really passionate about. Yeah. So talent, passion. Number 3 is?
Values.
Okay, so what do you value?
What's important to you?
Yeah.
What's really important? Some people, I mentioned 2 values, which is security and freedom.
Yes.
Security is important to some people.
Yeah.
Therefore, they will turn away from opportunity because security is more important.
Yes.
Therefore, they do those things first. And I try to teach them to be an entrepreneur. And they go, not who I am. You know?
Yeah.
And then I teach the entrepreneurs when I say, you want to be free? Freedom is the word. Or you even say the word freedom to an entrepreneur, they go, yeah.
They start shaking and convulsing right now. Like,
do what I want to do, when I want to do it, where I want to do it, as long as I want to do it, for whomever I want to do it. I want to do it my way, Yeah. And unfortunately, you said the secret, you said a little earlier, they want to do it their way, but they want to do it by themselves. And this is my biggest mistake in my life.
Interesting.
I was too independent. And my mentor, Stephen Covey, he said, you're going to either be you're going to be dependent, independent, or interdependent. And there are stages of maturity. And most babies are dependent, and most teenagers are dependent. And I was independent. It means I wanted to be free. I want to be my own guy, right? But which meant I wouldn't delegate.
Wow.
And it would meant I would have to do it myself.
Yes.
So I'd rather do it myself so I can do it the way I want it.
Yeah.
And therefore, there isn't a 500 employee company with Rob Brown's name on it.
Yes.
And there should be.
Yeah.
To tell you the honest truth, there should be.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Because that's why I see you and I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Kris.
Well,
unbelievable.
I've outlined my next 7 books. My ghostwriter's working on them, and one of them is all on time and delegation, which is seriously one of my. People are like, "Oh, Kris, you're a real estate guy." I'm like, I'm more of a systems guy, more of a team, just a little different. But I like delegation is. I think it might be my second love, like my wife and delegation.
That's why you're where you're at, and.
Listen, let's not be modest. You have slayed it. I mean, we're going to use millennial words, Bob. You have literally your lineup, your accomplishments are worthy and beautiful. And more importantly, as I know, the number of lives. I think that there was a document you showed me a couple weeks ago. At one point you were tracking how much money your clients had made. And it wasn't measured in hundreds of thousands. It wasn't a K. It wasn't measured with an M for millions. It was measured with a B. And I remember looking at that. I was like, oh my God. Do you remember that? Do you have the number right off the top of your head?
1.3 billion in 1 year.
In 1 year, $1.3 billion in deals. That right there. I mean, hello, that's just a clapper. And so, I mean, let's just be clear. You've nailed it in your space.
Yeah. And I've had many companies with hundreds of employees, et cetera, but I didn't like it. I didn't like if I had to do my life over again, I'm 72.
Yep.
I would be much more of a delegator, and I would even think bigger than that. And I've thought pretty big.
And I think you think really, really big.
I would be a bigger thinker. There are things that we're all afraid of.
Yeah.
I have my fears, and you have your fears.
Yeah.
Our watchers, listeners, you have your fears. Fear is expensive. It's expensive. How much does it cost you? The thought, fear. Think it's nothing. I just have a fear. Well, if it kept you from making an extra $100,000 this year, that single fear was $100,000 mistake times 50 years. It's a $5 million mistake. So you got to figure out how to learn how to be less fearful.
That's beautiful. Well, listen, we covered talent and passion and values, and the fourth one is
it's a sense like, why am I here?
Okay, so maybe just brainstorming a list of
what does
like
higher
mission
power want me to do?
Got it.
I've got these gifts. I want to give these gifts. I want to be a giver, not a taker.
Got it.
Most people are takers, frankly.
Yeah. What's the selfless gift that would be meaningful? So if someone sat down, if you listening, I wanted to just slow down for a moment. We're wrapping up, but I have a couple more questions. I just wanted to go through those 4 because you hit them so fast, and I'm like, wait a second. People are always asking, what's my purpose and why am I here? And I think that you just dropped really important clues. And if you took 10 minutes, 30 minutes, or 3 hours and meditated on whatever you brainstorm on these 4 things that Bob has just shared with you, you may not feel like you found the purpose etched in stone, handed down from God, but I bet you would have greater clarity for what you need for this chapter in your life. And then maybe you do this exercise once a week, once a month, once a year, and revisit and just get more clarity. You don't need the full picture, I guess is what I'm saying, to live a purpose-driven life.
No.
You just have to have your next breadcrumb so you can move in the right direction.
Ooh, that's so powerful what you just said. Because most people, they get all frustrated. They haven't found their purpose yet. So I call this what I call is primary purpose and secondary purpose.
Yeah.
Secondary purpose is how you make money. That's secondary, frankly. You're going to use your talents, your gifts, your passions. You're going to go out and find something, some side hustle, make some money at it. Primary purpose is love.
Yeah.
Primary purpose is learn how to learn.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons you're come here on this planet. So you can always be linked to your primary purpose. It's to give. It's to give.
Yeah.
And what I love about you, Kris, you teach it. You taught me the other day about social media. He says, Robert, you're an expert in all kinds of things, and you want to go out and teach your expertise to the world. This is what they need to know. And you said in social media, that doesn't work. They have questions that they're asking and that they want to know. They don't want to know what you know yet. They want to know whether you willing to give them what they want. And that was a profound lesson you taught me just a few days ago, Kris. You have to be a giver. Yeah. You have to be a first giver.
Yeah.
And most people are last givers or givers that are not givers at all.
Well, Bob, I know something about your personal financial philosophy in life and karma and a little bit how it works. And I know that you're a big believer in tithing, charity, giving. And one of the things that you taught me, we were in Key West a few weeks back, and I remember you basically saying that the reason why you give is not because of this notion of pay it forward and it'll come back. You're giving because you've already received. You've already been paid in full. And that lesson has really, really stuck with me, which is why I really want to go down maybe for our last conversation piece. What's it like being a member of your faith, a member of your church, and also, like, let's be honest, like financially more than a little bit well-to-do, and like, what's that been like for you? Where listen, I'm just going to say it. Like, for example, let's take Christianity, and I think a lot of religion in general that we kind of deify the notion of being poor as like as saintly, and yet, you know, if you were to take, for example, the Holy Script of the Bible, for example. My study of the Bible shows that 4 out of 5 statements regarding money, wealth, prosperity, and abundance is there's this God that wants to give it all to you. Yeah. There is a warning, but it's a 1-to-5 ratio. Like, well, beware, like, don't let it go to your head, or like, well, watch out, what it might do to your ego, or if you put your heart on this thing, like, it can wreck you. You know, I'm using some urban terminology to turn it up a little bit, but you certainly are a greater representative of the 4/5 message, which is abundance, prosperity, this one life to live. What's it like for you being devout member of your faith, but maybe having some people not knowing quite how to handle how do you rectify the whole money thing?
Well, the money is a drug, and it's dangerous. It is, because it makes you feel like you're in control of everything.
Okay.
And you see people with money who buy anything they want. They get really cocky, really egotistical. And I was that way in the 80s, frankly.
Really?
Because the money was pouring in so fast.
There's some vulnerability right
there. So we're buying cars and houses and everything you can imagine. And boy, I would like to take that chunk back. But the bottom line is, I lost it all. And there was a story of a farmer standing in a field of this beautiful grain, and it's gorgeous, a beautiful crop. And the preacher driving by stops, and he says to the farmer, "It's a great, beautiful crop you and the Lord have here together." And the farmer said, "Well, you should have seen it when the Lord had it all by himself." And this is the farmer thinking that he was the one that made that crop. He'd worked hard to plant those seeds, no doubt, but where did the seed come from? Where did the wind and the rain and the sun come from? 99% was higher power. 1% was this farmer who thought he was the 100%. Wow. And when I lost all my money, and I lost it all, it was an avalanche that destroyed our beautiful mountain home that we put a lot of money into, and the insurance wouldn't pay the money. They wouldn't pay for the loss. And so I lost everything and ended up, anyway, the bottom line is, I began to realize that it wasn't Robert Allen. It was the opportunities that had been placed in my path, and that it was my opportunity to teach and to grow. And the way I fixed it, and this is the way you fixed the money problem, when I had no money left and millions in debt, and my spiritual advisor says, "Are you a giver?" And I said, "No, I don't have any money to give. What are you talking about? And I'm bankrupt." And he goes, "Yes, you do. Just figure out a way to give some." And I started to give. And on that week, I gave a little, and I hadn't given in a long time because of the money flowing out instead of flowing in. And it seemed like there's a little bit more money the next week and a little less problems. And so for many years, that's been a weekly thing for me, because I began to realize that I already won the lottery. I already got all the blessings. We live in the most prosperous country on the face of the earth. 1/10 of 1% of the people in the world are as prosperous as we are. And so I decided I would be a first giver. I would give first. That inoculates you.
Yeah.
Now, it's strange. You've got a disease about money is a disease. But when you give it first, it inoculates you like measles, like mumps.
Okay.
You start to you realize it's not my money. I'm going to give the money that flows through me. And then you start give more and more and more. And at this event we did in Key West, we thought we might maybe raise $100,000 for the blind. And we raised, out of 70 people, we raised 700. $1,000.
Yeah.
Because when higher power gets involved,
Yeah.
the opportunity just explodes. It's an explosion. So we can spend a lot of time talking about spirituality. A lot of people don't believe in a higher power.
But you know what? I actually think there's
I
a lot
do.
of people that do. I think that it also just comes in a lot of forms. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate you being willing to share this. I found that there's a counterfeit in all things. Some people, we can focus on the good or the bad of anything.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
shadow for everything that exists on this planet. And I just want to share, from my point of view, I want to give maybe a different reason that may not sound so divine or godly Christian or whatever you want to call it, which is a time. I remember when Wayne Dyer said this thing. He must have even been maybe quoting someone else, but he said, that which is important to you in the spring of your life will no longer be important in the winter. And I remember thinking, that's strange. As I go through life, I started studying psychology and Piaget and this whole theory of how do we get value during different times in our life. And at some point, when you're ending your career, you start thinking ahead to legacy.
Yeah.
And you start becoming concerned with what good have I done?
Yeah.
And I always think, I have a belief that you should be early. So I was financially free at 26. I didn't want to do it when I was 55 or 65, like most people. I was I want to be early because people that are early have more options than those that don't. and so I've always been fascinated with the future of when I'm older, what will I care about? And I've convinced myself that someday when I'm older and maybe at the end, I'm going to look back and say, okay, Kris, like you were obviously blessed. You received a great abundance, but what did you do? What do you have to show? When you're dead and this is all gone, is there anything left? Did you consume it all? And it's gotten me thinking that meaning in my life is more important than having. And
nice.
And so I've started using my money for memories or for my foundation or for giving. And I start asking this question: the things I do with my money, what meaning will it create? And if the meaning is small, it usually isn't valuable enough to do. And I would encourage everyone listening to really think about what Bob is sharing with you right now, and to combine that with this notion of what produces meaning in life. And if it doesn't really produce greater meaning, then a time might come in your life when you're looking for that meaning. And if you haven't accumulated it, you might feel late. And if you feel late, we have a different word for that. That's called regret. And it's called I wish I had.
Yeah.
And how you avoid I wish I had is by being, what do you call it? A giver first? A first giver?
First giver.
A first giver. Thank you for teaching that today. It's such a beautiful way to end because, man, look at the spectrum we covered today. We covered everything from, hey, it doesn't take money to make money. Like that's an old school notion. That's retail. That's like the way the normal world works.
Yeah,
but by the
right.
way, if you want abnormal results, you don't do what normal people do. Stop looking for maybe a balanced life and look for look for doing something really great, which means you got to step outside. And man, Bob, Robert Allen, you've certainly done that. And I really appreciate just the dialogue, the back and forth, the questions, the answers. By the way, if you guys like seeing Robert Allen here on this show or any of my social media, do me a favor. I want you to, wherever you're listening to this, I want you to go to the comment and I want you to say, more Bob. By the way, if you are done with Bob, you could literally just say nothing, or you could even say less Bob. Sorry, Bob, that's the world we live in today. I want the real feedback. And so listen, just go ahead and share your thoughts and feelings. I'm going to be honest. I think, Bob, we're going to be seeing a lot of more Bob, because you know what? As much as I think I've got some great things to share and teach, having you as a guest today, it's an honor, not just a reflection on my past, but because of who you are today and the tremendous good that you're doing in the world. I know that my vote is for way more Bob, and we've got to do this again because this was really fun and you've been so generous with how you've given.
Thank you. There are people who are watching right now and they know that they need to learn more, and that maybe the way I say things turns them off. But there are some that go, I like the way he says that. I resonate with the way he says that.
Yes.
And if that's the case, you'll say more Bob. And if I already turn you off, you go like, I don't like the way that guy said that. Good. I don't want you to because we weren't meant to.
Yeah, we all
spend time together.
We all got to find our people, don't we?
We got to find our people.
We got to
find your people. We all do.
And guys, it's been a privilege for me today, Kris Krohn, to have Robert G. Allen here on my show, sharing the stage. Honestly a dream, because Bob, you've been a mentor to me. You have inspired greatness in me. You've inspired me to be better. You've inspired me to be a bigger giver. And you've also, your stories have touched me for years, but you've also taught me how to think outside the box. And I hope that those of you listening today grab your gift that you were looking for. And if you did like Bob, give it a thumbs up. Let us know, because we will definitely listen and have a whole lot more Bob coming your way. Everybody, thank you so much. And obviously you can just Google Robert G. Allen to certainly learn a lot more about him, his social media, where he's at, what he does. He is a giver. So you're going to find that he's often just giving stuff to you to help you on your journey like he has today on the show. So Bob, thank you so much. Heartfelt being here today. And for everybody else, go live your amazing Have It All